20 minutes to go. Hello and good afternoon and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. We've been gathering here together every day, almost every day, since March of 2020, at the very beginning of the pandemic. We started out as a refuge, as a place to go, as a sanctuary to get away from the drama and the crisis of the pandemic. And I'm so glad we did, because so many of us, like me included, we're so grateful for this space that we can come together every day and get out of our heads and get out of our worry so we can actually get through that really very, very difficult year. And it was a difficult year for all of us. And it was a tremendous year of transformation for everyone. And we're all a little bit different. I know for me, I'm a much more open, loving, caring man than I was before. And I have a deeper appreciation for life and gratitude for everything around me. So now that we've gotten to what do we do with all this? What do we do with this new awareness of who we are and what we're here to do, and find our purpose, find out who we are and our purpose? And that's what we're here today to do. We've been sharing stories with people who are extraordinary people. Today we're talking with extraordinary coaches and caregivers who do ordinary things, but they inspire us. And today I'm very excited to bring on as my guest David Karasek. I met David a few months ago. We both were part of the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs coaching program, which is a wonderful program for entrepreneurs to step into their power. And I just really liked him, and I liked his message. And I even watched a couple of his live shows, and I was so inspired by what he had to say, particularly in the arena of coaching pro athletes and the power of coaching pro athletes for good role models for younger people. And he is just a really inspiring, lovely man. And I can hardly wait to be up front and close and really hear his personal story. So David, tell us a little bit about how you got here. How did you get from wherever you started? I don't know where you started from. I do know that you were in the Olympics and you were an athlete yourself, and now you're dedicated to helping pro athletes. But how did you get here? You didn't just start here, I'm sure.
Hey Martin, it's good to be here. Yeah, absolutely not. And as I was mentioning, I went through 30 years of my life, and I'm 33 now. I kind of just went through life on autopilot. Things just happened. You know, I was a swimmer. Guess what? My dad swam, right? The apple doesn't fall so far from the tree. And, you know, that's what I was saying. I was lacking awareness. I made it to the Olympics, but I was really not like that aware of what was going on, and I wasn't in the driver's seat. I had fun, but when I compare it with now that I stepped into my power, and for you guys listening, Martin took me through like a cool meditation, you know, a couple before we went live, and you were talking about it. What you were saying is, it just rang so true to me with like stepping into our power when we become aware of how powerful we are. And that happened to me, and I can get into the story how it happened 3 years ago. Basically, it was a guy from England, and that's quite cool. He invited me for a tea. And I was long done swimming since then, but I was a banker, okay? And I kind of thought I had it figured out, got like a good salary, good bonus and all that. And he invited me for a tea, which was kind of weird for me because I've never been invited to a tea. Like, you know, when does that happen to you the last time you got invited to a tea?
I know. Well, coffee, but not to a tea.
Exactly. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go, right? So I went there, and we actually did order a tea. And then he was saying to me very directly, he was saying, David, everything that you're thinking is very subjective, and it's not the truth. And I remember I was sitting there, I was like, everything that I'm thinking is so subjective and it's not the truth. And it's hard to argue with that. I started thinking, damn, I think he is spot on. He's right. And I started to, you know, read books about this, you know, that we are so programmed that the ideas that a lot of it we didn't choose, but we kind of, you know, grow up and thinking we did choose all of that. And I became fascinated with the topic, and, you know, that's the rabbit's hole. The deeper you dig, the more you find, right? And one thing led to the other, and then I had to get out of banking because I just didn't see why I wanted to work for somebody else, because I think I was capable to do my own thing, and that's what I wanted. And I, started to build the confidence, and thankfully made the move. But it wasn't smooth sailing at all. Hi.
It's never smooth sailing, is it? That's why they need somebody. They need people to guide us through those dark and difficult waters, I think. And that's so true. That whole idea around awareness. I mean, I like you. We all grew up in a cult. And I grew up in America. Where did you grow up, David?
University of where I grew up in Zurich in Switzerland.
Okay, so you're Swiss, but you went to school here in America.
Yeah, man, UVA, University of Virginia, 4 years. God bless America.
Good for you. Here. But it's always a journey of struggle, and we're trying to. I think what Richard Ford talks about is the first half of our life. Well, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's not about age. It's about the first half of our life is always trying to achieve something. It's always trying to learn, to be more, to compete, to get your share, whatever. That's not a bad thing. That's just the way we are. That's the way human beings are. That's how we're made. That's how we grow, and that's how we expand. But we also get a lot of programming along the way about what we should be, or what we should or should not be, and how we should show up in the world. And it's particularly tough on as you know, I'm a prosperity coach with the gay population, and it's particularly hard on us because we're always comparing ourselves to you straight guys. We're always thinking if we could just be straight, we'd be good enough. We could be succeed. So there's always even below that, there is, because of our culture, we've been told, oh, you're not as good as we are. Mm-hmm. Because that's our power. I would call that our queer nature. That's our power. So that's why I'm so grateful for allies like you who can see beyond all that and see the real potential in everybody. And so but like you said, we're all conditioned by what we should be and how we should perform and what we should achieve and what's important, until it all comes crashing down. And you're like, wait a minute, there's something really much bigger going on. And you were talking about something in you, and you had to leave the banking world. I call that a deep yearning, a deep calling that all entrepreneurs have to bring their gifts to the world for the betterment of others. Yeah. And I'd love you to comment a little bit on that yearning, that passion in you that drives you, and is the kind of the why behind working with athletes so they can become better role models for younger people.
Yeah, Martin, here's the thing. Like, I think when it first happened to me, I kind of didn't really believe it yet, but I think my mentor believed in me. And that was just incredible, because oftentimes we don't believe it in the first place in the beginning, but that's why it's so important to have somebody who's walked the path before us and who believes in us and gives us that strength to move through that, initial kind of weird phase when it's like old and new and confusion. And I just want to say what happened to me, because I think that is really, you were mentioning I'm not good enough. Like this is one of the limiting beliefs that I had very strongly, and I think I still have it. But what happened was, and I learned that with William Whitecloud, from the Natural Success Academy, and I'm a partner in the Natural Success Academy because, he's changed my life completely. And what I learned, or what he taught me, was that we have these limiting beliefs, that a lot of them, they're already there, in the first 5 years that we come to the planet. And we have, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't belong, I need to be perfect. We all have them to some extent. And when I learned about these and I saw the patterns that somebody is living out in life that feels not good enough, always trying to go more, working 14 hours and it's not enough, always being restless, always being in the future with the thoughts, always trying to fill the calendar. It's like, oh my God, this is what I've been doing my 30 years. And then William taught me to just see it for what it is, saying, okay, it is we don't need to fix ourselves. It is what it is. And now focus and learn what you really want and listen to your heart. And the second I did that, I put my focus away from where it was unconsciously, where it was in the limiting beliefs. And I started to give it to what my heart wanted. Everything in life started to change. That was the moment. And the moment was that we don't need to fix ourselves, that we all have these limiting beliefs to some extent. And I see some of the world's, I'm working with an Olympic champion in triathlon. And you would not believe, she is experiencing self-doubt as well. And, if we're doing a group session and she's sharing that, then, how many aha moments that we get there, because it just feels like, it's like, I'm normal, and it's all good. And I don't need to spend a lifetime trying to fix myself, but I want to listen to my heart and go for what I really want. Not what I think, what my mind thinks, but what my heart is saying. And I think that is very, very important. And that applies if you ask me, in all areas of life. And it's the same for athletes, because I've seen guys like overtrained to the point where they got in a hospital, because they thought they have to do more, and they didn't listen to the heart.
Yeah, because what drives us when we do not include heart space in the mindset, we are driven by the fear in our ego to be better. It's all fear driven, because the ego does the human mind by itself, without the heart, does not. Every belief it has is limited, by the way. That is its nature. It is always going to give you a negative, and we need that shadow. We need that shadow to reflect the light off of, to guide us and navigate through. We wouldn't be able to grow and expand if we did something. Why do you have to have all this? Because we need to expand. You couldn't be doing what you now did if you hadn't hit that wall of darkness and said, wait a minute, wake up. Wake up. There's more here to me, more here to the life than what I'm able to see or experience. I've got to go into myself deeper and find that part in the heart. And as you know, my company is called Financial Heart Space for a reason, because I think when we begin, because for me, the key to success and wealth creation is self-love. Learning to love yourself, practicing the art of self-love. And I'm sure that you do something very similar to that with your athlete. And I'd love to hear about that, about how the athlete can just learn to love and accept themselves just like they are, so they can perform at their best, because that's where they're going to perform, not from fear that they're not going to get it right or lose, but from a place of love and gratitude for all the gifts they have and can perform at their highest level. I'd love to hear some of your comments about that.
Yeah. So with self-love, it's interesting. That's actually self-love with those words. I don't bring it up that much because, depending on, because I come from the spiritual world, and depending on who I work with, and if we're working in like big, large groups, because we do like seminars over multiple days, it's like, they're like, oh, this is like too woo-woo for me. But gratitude, for example, gratitude is like, it's literally one of those emotions that when you're grateful, you cannot be fearful or angry at the same time. Like a dog cannot be happy and angry at the same time. It's impossible. And that's the same. So one of the fastest way actually for athletes, if they are experiencing like self-doubt and worry and fear, or, expressed as anxiety in the body, the fastest way to snap out of this is gratefulness, to practice gratefulness. And, that's one of the highest vibrations that we human beings can be in, from as far as I was taught from the spiritual world. And you might like confirm that. Is that correct?
Yes. What you're saying is spot on, gratitude. And that's what I mean about self-love. It's like, I am so grateful for this life, for this spark of energy. And we're miracles. I mean, the human being, if you just stop and think about the fact that this is, we talk about transformation. The fact that if I get hungry, I can go in that kitchen right now and I can get a box of brown powder, some oatmeal, a bowl, and some heat. And within about 10 minutes, I will have a delicious bowl of chocolate pudding. What other animal species could create that? Has the capacity? Is a very simple task, but it's very complicated, because we have to have a complex operating system that will allow us to do that. And then when you start with the memory banks, and then when you open up the heart, all of a sudden I'm beginning to create something new out of that simple powder and milk. I'm just using a really simple example. So it's really about stepping out of that fear zone and into the power zone of the heart.
Yeah, I agree. No, let's take it a step further. Like, let's take an example with an athlete. Like, I use that example all the time. When you think about what the difference is between us human beings and animals, It's our higher faculties. It's our mind. And we human beings, we can, out of a thought. So if you look at the pen, that pen has existed in somebody's mind as a thought, only a thought first. And with time, it's moved into physical form. The microphone that we're using, the phone that we're using, the glass bottle, it has existed as a thought, nothing physical. And with time, it's moved into physical form. Now, Michael Jordan, for example, he had a dream, a thought of being the best basketball player in the world. And with time, he has moved that into physical form. It's exactly the same. And, you have a thought in your conscious mind. And then, as you just said, the power of the heart is what I teach the athletes. I just call it differently. I say you get emotionally involved in it, because the emotions are what create. When you can entertain a thought all you want, as long as you just entertain it in your head, it's just mental activity. It doesn't mean anything. But when you impress it with repetition up on your subconscious mind, which is your emotional mind, basically, and you get emotionally involved in it, that's when you start to create, because your body is going to move in a different kind of action, and the different actions are going to give you different results. So you can, that's the beautiful thing about being human. We have the free will, imagination, which is literally a skill to freaking look into the future, because we've all done that, right? We've imagined stuff, and a couple of years later, it became true.
Right.
So beautiful.
I know it's really amazing. I mean, if you had asked me years ago that I'd be being a prosperity mindset, I said, what is a mindset? What even is a mindset coach?
Yeah.
I didn't know what even one was, much less think I'd ever be one. And I got to tell you though, but once I had the thought, and the thought came through my own transformation, my own journey, and that was years ago when I found myself curled up on the sofa in a pity party, thinking that the world was coming to an end. I went from being a top producer in a Fortune 100 financial services firm with a beautiful office overlooking Park Avenue, and 2 doors down from the managing director. I mean, if you were to look at me, like maybe some of your successful athletes, you would think I was the most successful person on the planet in the world of finance. Inside, I was terrorized. I had so much. Money even terrorized me. And my imposter syndrome became so loud that told me that I was a fraud, I didn't deserve all this, that I actually found myself at the edge of bankruptcy within a few months. Mm-hmm. And it was my spiritual teacher and it was my AA sponsor who said to me, Martin, you're not sober, because I was having this major pity party about feeling sorry for myself. And I said, what do you mean? I haven't had drinks I haven't drank alcohol in years. And she said, no, it's not about alcohol, but you are obsessed with money. You had such a obsession with money. That's what's killing your business. So she took me through the 12 steps of recovery, which is a spiritual program. It's really, people don't know that, but actually 12 steps is a spiritual program to enlightenment. And so we just kind of let go of our obsession with alcohol, but she helped me let go of my obsession with money. And when I finally surrendered that obsession, that's the spiritual practice of surrender, and got rid of that thought in my head that I needed to be rich and famous and important to be worthy of love, basically, and fit in. Then I was like, oh, it's all a big lie. Mm-hmm. I am struggling so hard for a big lie. I got everything I need. And all of a sudden, this is going to sound kind of cheesy, David, but all of a sudden I woke up to the truth. It said, and it was a little voice in me, and I call it the divine presence of Joy, the wise woman. And she said, Martin, none of this stuff matters. All this stuff that you worry about and you're working so hard for, being successful, getting this, none of that matters. I want you just to show up in life from a position of love and gratitude. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I will do the rest. I, the divine presence in you, I, that spark of life, I, that infinite intelligence, will do the rest. It took me a while, but that was how I transitioned into becoming a mindset coach. Because then once I got that and really was aware of it and began to embrace it and live into that truth, then I wanted to teach it to others.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, why are we doing this? Well, it's because we're not psychopaths and because we love giving back. And I mean, it's just what we're put on this planet to do, is like to help others. And again, if you're not a psychopath, you understand what I'm talking about.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. And I think if people say out there, if you're talking about the pursuit of happiness, And I take that even a little further and talk about the pursuit of joy, because our natural state of being is deeper, is bigger than happiness. It's actually a state of joy, profound joy, and a feeling of. I mean, just think about when you're really when you're stepping into that place of gratitude. When you stop for a minute to be so grateful for this life, for this beautiful planet, the friends, the loved ones you have in your life. All of a sudden, you just feel joy, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and I imagine when an athlete is performing from that place, there's a tremendous amount of joy and enthusiasm and excitement in their vibration level.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that so that's this spiritual level, how I try to explain it to them, right? And I think it's like more their world is to not be seduced by their success and not be fooled by their failure, because they are separate from what they create in their sports career. They are, you know, I kind of say, you know, are you a better person if you know how to drive a car? It doesn't matter. No. Are you a better person if you know how to cook? No, it doesn't matter. So I try to tell them and show them that they're separate and that their identity, you know, that they can be whatever they like to be, right? And I mean, you know, they should have big goals, because I mean, it's just beautiful to go after the goals. And I know that when they get that, when they have that burning desire to reach the goal, it's really beautiful and they really start to light up. But that being said, if you don't reach it, you shouldn't identify or call it as or a failure or whatever, because it doesn't mean anything. We set the goal in the first place not to win medals or make money or win championships or get a bigger car or whatever. We set the goal to grow. And if you know set out to do that, and you're always aware of that, and it goes back to again awareness, right? That then you know it's like a really beautiful journey, and yeah,
Kind of fun, right?
it's so good. And actually, I am hoping, because I'm still kind of. It's not been that long that I've been working with professional athletes because before I've done executive work with executives, but I'm hoping that, you know, the spiritual touch of what I do, that this is because in my messaging, in the, as you say, the live talks, in the seminars that I do, right, I always speak about it. I may use different words, but slowly but surely, you know, I'm getting questions on how does the law of attraction work? Like what, you know, and like all these things, what is spirit? I'm getting the questions, and I think it's super cool because slowly but surely they start to get used to it. And and I'll just be aware of that. There's so much going on than what we can see and hear and touch and feel with our five senses, right?
Absolutely. That's where it's all going on. That's really where it's all happening.
Yeah.
That's where it's happening. And the binary human brain, it cannot really understand it because it likes everything in linear. It's got to be this, and it gets something, and it thinks that if you take this linear path, you're going to get where you want to go. When the creative aware mind loves chaos, it operates out of chaos. It's not linear at all. It goes out into the world, and all of a sudden it finds like energy. You said attraction. It finds like energy sources that are not on a linear path to grow and expand and raise vibration.
So I've learned that the ego is kind of like, the ego always needs to know how it is. It always needs to orient itself. So that means it needs fixed points. Like if you're a navigator on a ship, like back in the days, and they navigated with the stars, if those stars would change all the time, you couldn't navigate, right? And it's literally like that. You need fixed points. And that's what the ego is trying to do, is trying to hold on and kind of prove the ideas that believes that you have to be true. But yeah, it's not the truth. Yeah, it's wrong.
You know, I love that. You know, I don't know if you know this, but back in the olden days when they used to do maps, you know, for boats going out into the, made me think of when they're going out into the oceans, they'd always at the edge of the map, the edge of the unknown would be a dragon. That's what the dragon stands for. It's that, it's like, it's the monster, it's the unknown, it's the fear of the unknown. And so it's like, oh, but you gotta challenge that dragon. You gotta say, you know, the ego wants to know, I call it the shadow wants to know everything. It can't stand, it knows nothing and controls nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question. We got about 6 more minutes here before we meditate. I call last year the pandemic a great big time out, and we all learned something about ourselves. What wonderful thing did David learn about David that you might not have learned about yourself had it not been for that this year of what I call the big time out?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, it would clearly be, because that marked like a change in my business, and my happiness and everything was about perspective. That is one of the perception, one of those higher faculties that we human beings have that animals, from what I know, don't have, is that we can see the same thing from different angles. And with the pandemic, when it hit, I was thinking, oh no, this is it for my business. I'm like the offline kind of guy, and I need to see people. And I had a really hard time to wrap my head around all that. And it was literally like when I could flip the switch from seeing what was bad to, the pandemic was exactly the same what it was the day before, but I literally woke up and I hit the switch. It wasn't like a knob that was turning. It was a switch. It went bam, over, and it stuck. And all of a sudden, I started to see all the opportunity that this pandemic is basically, having in store for, in my case, for me, and how this online thing could be the biggest thing ever, right? And that's, guess what? That's exactly what happened. Started to take off like I could have never imagined. And it was just, it was one night of good sleep, one morning waking up, and like, boom, and everything changed.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Transformation
it's not linear.
Is not linear. Transformation is not linear. It is certainly not linear, which is, you can create the safe space for transformation. And I think you and I both do that as coaches, but we can't create the transformation. We have to create the space and ask enough questions and inquire so that the individual we're coaching with, whether it's an athlete or somebody or a business leader, it's really about, they've got to see that truth themselves. They've got to wake up to that new awareness. And our job, because we've been there, is to go down, find out just a little bit above where they are and ask them enough questions so they can see the truth about themselves.
Martin, what was it for you with the pandemic? What was the biggest learning or insight that you had?
For me, it was really how precious life is.
Okay.
And how precious my life is, and what a gift I have this life is for me. And really what was, that whole episode of my business failing and being in all that darkness I was actually able to see that from a place of gratitude. Because had I not experienced that toxic environment and that wall and that pain, I wouldn't be doing the dance I'm doing today. So it was really about, and you came back, I love that idea of gratitude. Gratitude is the practice of self-love from my perspective. Mm-hmm. So I know maybe I think when you use the word love, it has a romantic side, but actually I'm not talking about romance. I'm talking about that creative genius within all of us. I call it the creative love, but that's that genius that we have in the heart. It's what the heart space is all about. So It really allowed me, like you did, to say, wait a minute. And I slowed down just long enough to realize, wow, I've got an opportunity here to really help a lot of people in the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think there's just, if we're speaking about love, when you come, that's like one of the things I've learned. Also, you come to the planet and you experience that unconditional love from the parents, right? But then you kind of grow up and have the first relationships, and it's more like based on conditional love, that, oh, if you text me, I'll text you. If you don't text me, I don't text you back. It's like, and at some point you realize, okay, this is not what I want for the rest of my life. And then you first have to learn to love yourself until you can move into unconditional love, which is what you want for the rest of your life.
And sometimes you need a coach. That's what I call it, coaches and caregivers. Sometimes you need a coach to love you when you can't love yourself. You can't see that you're worthy of love. And that happens a lot because you didn't win that game. Mm-hmm. So you all of a sudden think, and you're I'm trying to make an analogy, like you didn't achieve that place on the corporate ladder. So all of a sudden you beat yourself up and say, I'm not worthy of love because I didn't achieve that goal. And that's not what it's all about. The fact that you even tried to achieve the goal is what you need to love. The fact you had the courage to step out of your comfort zone and go a little further is what I would say.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, it's half after the hour now, and you're gonna be my meditation student for about 20 minutes here.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I want to invite you just to sit back. If you typically meditate with your eyes open, keep your eyes open. If you typically meditate with your eyes closed, close your eyes and just listen to my voice. You don't have to do anything but be still and breathe. We're going to use the breath to go deeper and deeper inside ourselves. And I'm going to set the timer so I don't forget. And that bell is called an interval bell. And the idea of the bell sometimes, which we'll hear throughout the meditation, is intended to just wake us up out of our sleeping, our thinking. When we're in meditation, sometimes we'll find a thought, and all of a sudden we'll chase that thought down the rabbit hole. And that's good for sometimes, but right now we want to be in no thinking. Now, you can't completely stop thinking. That would be impossible. And you don't want to, because you want, otherwise you'd be dead. But you can slow it down so you get a little space between the thoughts. And one of the ways you can do that is to reverse engineer how things happen physically. When we think, our tongues vibrate. So if we can consciously use our breath to slow down the vibration of the tongue, we can slow down the thinking in our mind. It's like reverse engineering, right? So the invitation is just, and how I do that is to take the tip of your tongue and rest it gently on the roof of your mouth, just behind your front teeth, and slightly part your lips and just breathe naturally. Just breathe naturally. Relax your jaw, slightly part your lips, and allow the breath to come in through the nose, through the mouth, and just notice it gently massaging the back of your tongue. Just notice it gently massaging the back of your tongue and relaxing it. Allow the breath to come down deeper into the belly, and actually use the belly muscles to pull the breath deeper inside you as an anchor of alignment. Alignment with your spirit, alignment with your body, alignment with your mind. So consciously use the breath and use the belly to pull that breath deeper inside. And to create a little bit more space, we're going to do 3 belly breaths. 3 belly breaths to create a little more space and to let go of some things that might be standing in our way. So this is how it's going to look. In just a minute, we're going to start breathing. We're going to use our belly muscles to pull the breath in through the mouth and the nose, across the tongue, down the throat, expand the heart, and pull that breath deep into the belly and expand it and hold it for just a second. Maybe get a little uncomfortable, and then we're going to let it go. So you ready for the first one? Okay, so let's just begin with your belly muscles. Pull the breath in, across the tongue, open the heart, expand the belly muscles and hold it to a little bit of discomfort. Now just let it go. And when you let go of the breath, let go of everything in your mind. Let go of every belief, every opinion, every judgment you have about yourself, you have about me, you have about David, the show. Just let everything go. Hold on to nothing. And allow yourself to fall back into your divine nature. We're going to do another deep belly breath. So ready? With your belly muscles, pull the breath in through the mouth and through the nose, across the tongue, open the heart, expand the belly, create a little more space and hold it, and just till it gets a little uncomfortable, and now just gently let it go and go back into a natural breath. As you get more and more familiar with your inner landscape, what's it like to be you? What's it like to live inside your body? So watch your mind. What's it like to be grateful for all that you have? This magnificent mind, this magnificent body, this magnificent love for others. Just fall into that for a moment. Fall into the space of enormous gratitude. Feel your way into gratitude. And let go. When you hear that bell, allow that interval bell to take you a little deeper inside. Don't listen to the bell, feel the bell. Feel the bell pull you deeper, and we're going to do one last belly breath. And then I'll be quiet for the remainder of the meditation, except for the interval bells, which will come on just to wake us up from our thinking, our sleeping, our planning, our worrying. And the invitation is just to thank that brilliant brain for all of its work and let it go. And fall back into the love and gratitude of your heart. So you ready? Last belly breath now. Pull the breath in through the nose, through the mouth. Gently massage the tongue. Expand the rib cage, open the heart, and pull that breath deep into your belly and hold it. And you get even a little bit bigger, even more space. Now let it go. Let go of any remaining beliefs about yourself, anything which you might be ashamed, right or wrong. Let it all go. And just know you're loved. Because you are loved. And just be still and breathe. And just allow the mind to breathe. And if you start thinking, just say, let it go. And fall back into love. Oh, there's the sweet sound of that interval bell to wake us up from our sleeping, our thinking, our worrying, our storytelling. The invitation is just to open your heart a little further with gratitude for that brilliant brain of yours, for all the work that it does, and just let it go. Invite it to let go. It's safe. You fall back into unconditional love. Oh, there's that sweet sound of the interval bell to wake us up from our thinking, our planning, our worrying, maybe even our sleeping. And the invitation is to just let it go. Fall back into your heart. Fall back into that experience of gratitude for this magnificent life. And there's our final bell to bring us back to now. Bring us back into this space. Bring us back into this moment. Bring us back into awareness of our bodies. Welcome back. How you feeling, my friend?
It's nice. I look outside, I see the green. It's like in innocence, nice.
Yeah.
Smile, inner smiley.
I love that feeling. Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking me through that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for going with me. It's nice to have. I love when I have guests on the show. Sometimes I do the show solo, but I much prefer having guests because I want to hear I get tired of hearing myself talk, and I want to hear someone else's story and hear what they're doing. And also, it's just nice to have someone to meditate with me that I can see. I know people are meditating, but
How did you just do that now? Because were you like checking the clock, or were you also kind of meditating, or do you have a time?
I have a timer. I have a meditation timer. Oh yeah, I'm. This all started back actually at the beginning of the pandemic. Some of my clients wanted to know how to meditate, so I thought, well, I'll just go online and start teaching. And then when the pandemic happened, and we were in, I thought I'm just going to take my practice. I'm going to take my practice on at noon and create a sanctuary, so that people can get out of this drama and power themselves up. And it just grew, and I found myself people from all over. The audience has shifted, but during the pandemic, I had people from all over the country, all over the world, really tapping into just they needed a refuge. They needed a place to go. That they weren't hearing the news, they weren't hearing the drama. They just needed a place to go inside, and it became a real refuge for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and now I'm reformatting it a little bit. I'm probably going to be going on less frequently, and more focused on this type of format where we're actually sharing stories to give people something they can hold on to now move forward. Now that we've gotten through the pandemic, when we're moving into what Eckhart Tolle calls a new earth. How do we play our part in that new earth? How do we find our spot, our sense of purpose and belonging in this new space? And that's the purpose of this now. So I invite people who just inspiring people who are just doing ordinary things. I mean, coaching is really kind of an ordinary thing, really, if you think about it. It's just coaching. But when you put your heart space into it and you tell your story and you're sharing passion and creating space for transformation, we are creating a new world together. It's more equitable, more loving, more participatory.
Co-creating a new world. I like that.
You and I are co-creating a new world.
Yeah. And by the way, I think during the meditation before I checked, I think it was more gray. Now it's like very blue outside.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
Perception again, yeah. Or maybe, yeah.
Well, the world transformation for me, that way I define it. Well, we're both transformation coaches, and the way I define it is the real transformation occurs when we see ourselves differently. We see our creator, we call it God, whatever you call that creator. It's no longer judgmental, it's loving, benevolent. And we see the world as a place of abundance and resources, and it's got our back. So we see it as a place we belong in and we're welcome to. So that's the perception that shifts, I think, when for me, how would you call transformation? How would you define it?
Yeah, wow. I have never. It's interesting how it's like such a term that we use all the time. Transformation, coaching, transformation here and there. But what does it actually mean? Well, yeah, I think for me, it will just go. But what you're saying rings very true to me. About awareness, just knowing more of what's going on, and I think that the truth is that things are abundant, and that we're just finding that out also we can take quantum physics now, how they finding out how much energy that there is, latent energy in our body around us in the vacuum and thing, so I think it's just finding out more about that and moving towards the truth. So that, and in the end of the day, yeah, you're having a transformation if you let go of all thinking, kind of like you say in the meditation, what comes, just let it go and know nothing, in innocence, like a child. Child walks around and sees all the details and is fascinated with everything, whereas we adults, we go and we think we know everything. We kind of categorize it into, oh, I've already seen that, and we don't look for what it really is. So I think that.
Yeah. 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 So it's really just about awareness. I love what it's about awareness that there's a lot more going on than what meets the five senses, isn't there? And when you a lot more going on.
And we don't even know what I mean, we're just, I think at the beginning of, I mean, at least I am. So and that's what I find one of the most rewarding thoughts is actually that if you realize how little you know, or when I realized how little I know, I was like, wow, so there's a lot more to learn, and I love learning. There's a lot more to explore. I love exploring. I'm curious, right? So that it's just it will never get boring, that's for sure.
Yeah. The only part people say, I get so bored meditating. I say, well, what part of you? The ego gets very bored because it does not want to show up. But the heart could sit still. It's its natural nature. So it just dances in that quietness and emptiness. So I want to, before we close this out, I want to ask people. I know people I know after hearing you today, or hear more people watch the replay than actually show up for the live shows. You probably experienced with some of your stuff. And I want people to be able to get in touch with you who might want to get to know you and find out how you work. And you maybe even have something going on right now that people need to know about. Could you tell us how people can find you, and if there's anything going on in your world that people might want to be attuned to?
Yeah. So I think the easiest would just be to go on thetribeofathletes.com. So thetribeofathletes.com. And what we always do is like we do these confidence workshops where we take people through a journey, because confidence is something also that's learned, right? And that's something that with athletes, they need a lot of that. So that's like the basic entry thing that we do. It's open for everybody. So if people want to work on that, they're more than welcome to join our next round, and all the information is on the website.
When is your next round?
Yeah, it's planned for July, because I'm doing one right now. After we get off this, I have a little dinner, and then we're having our workshop. So I think in July we'll do the next one.
Okay, great. So hold on one second. I want to close this out and make a few announcements, and then we'll meet up backstage for a second. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. So everyone, and thank you so much for being here, David. It was just wonderful to hear your inspiration and hear what you're doing with athletes and how important that is in the world. I want to make everyone aware of some things. As you know, I am a prosperity coach, and I'm a mindset coach and a spiritual teacher, working primarily with gay, transgender, and bisexual business leaders. And I got something very exciting to tell you about. On June 7th, I'm leading a 5-day adventure. It's called the Real GBTQ Business Leaders Training Adventure, because we all love an adventure, right? And during this venture, we're talking about confidence. We're going to look at all the things that are in the way of our confidence, so we can gain more confidence and become more aware of our truth and our abundance and our potential in the world. So I have the registration link just about ready to go. So, and I'll be posting that tomorrow, but mark your calendars. On June the 7th, I'm going to be doing a 5-day, 1 hour a day for 5 days transformational workshop it's called the Real GBTQ Business Leaders Training Adventure. So stay tuned for that. Also, just for any of you that are out there that are in that tribe, part of my tribe, please join our Facebook group, the Financial Heart Space for Gay, Transgender, and Bisexual Men. And I also have another Facebook group called the Financial Mystic Sanctuary, where everybody's invited. And just so you know, the reason why I do, David, the reason why I work primarily with gay men is because we talked about earlier is that we have a deeper sense of woundedness about our sexual orientation, and that we need a safe place to be able to talk about that in an environment where we understand it. And so that's why it's not about excluding people. It's just that we need a place for ourselves to deal with that problem, deal with that wound. So that's what that's about. So in the meantime, may love and prosperity prevail. Thank you so much for joining us. And David, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me, brother.